Okay, so this is the December koha-US web dev meeting, and George is going to show us some cool stuff.
Maybe I got to find a patron that has a, well, I can mark this as claims. Maybe. And maybe it's not working right now. I did mark it, didn't I? Yeah, I did. Oh, there it is, the create invoice button. So it doesn't load immediately. You saw the delay there. And so now I need to create the report that'll grab the idea is for the people that are watching maybe the meeting later, is I have libraries that want to use claims return, but they also want the ability to create an invoice from the claims return page if the item is never found. And creating the button was complicated because the table is a data table that loads after the page loads. And so you have to use the, what is it, on init dt command. Yeah, so when the returns claim table loads on the initialization of that data table, the function is to set a timeout, and once the 2.5 seconds is what I set it at. So once the table loads, it's going to do, I had this in here so I could make sure everything was working right by logging it in the console. But then I'm grabbing the barcode number. I closed that table, didn't I? So let me open it up again. And I don't remember which Frosty that was. I think it was Christopher Frosty. Yeah, it's this one. So there's the table, and so 2.5 seconds after it loads, it's running this function, which is I'm creating a variable, and for the variable I'm grabbing just the barcode number here. And then I'm creating a link, and I'm appending that. Well, I'm giving it a name, and I gave it a title, so when you hover over it, it'll say bill the borrower for the replacement cost of this item. And then I give it it's just a link, so I gave it the button class, and I appended it here so that it would come after the actions button. And that's as far as I've gotten so far. So the next thing I need to do is give that link a function. And that's going to be the next complicated part, because the function needs to be to run a report that uses the barcode number as a variable, and then the report will say, I'll find the item information. Specifically, what I need from that is the title and the barcode number, and possibly I'll also probably try and get the permanent shelving location, the collection code, and the item type, so that can be part of the note, and then the replacement cost. And then I'll have to set them as variables and get them to fill in the parts of the form for the create invoice, so that all that data will be there. So this was the hard, I thought that was going to be the hard part, because that's a lot of stuff. But it turned out that this 2.5 second delay, that was the hard part, because I kept trying to do it without the delay, and sometimes on initialization of the data table, It seems like without the delay, all of this stuff here just happens so fast that sometimes it would happen before the parts of the data table were loaded. And so there was nothing there yet for the button to be appended to. And so by creating the delay, it just gives the table enough time to draw itself before the JavaScript tries to insert the button in there. Because if JavaScript doesn't have anything to attach the button to, it just doesn't do anything. So once it's working, I think it'll be a pretty useful feature, and I'll try and write it up, but it's still not working right now. So that's kind of what I've been working on, and it's the Leavenworth Public Library who's interested in that enhancement through jQuery. So what are you guys doing?
Well, I made some changes to the purchase suggestion sheet on the staff side. I can go ahead and share that. That's the right window. So there's no way to make the title or anything except the title required on the staff side of the patron purchase suggestion page. And so I used some jQuery, which I hadn't quite got pulled up yet, to make, well, the first thing that was happening was we were getting a lot of audiobook suggestions. And so on our OPAC, we have this code that forces nothing to be selected when the page loads. So you have to select instead of just having the whatever's first alphabetically selected by default. So we had already been doing that on the OPAC. So I just added that here and then made document type and notes required for LCLD staff. Or not OPAC. Because we've got a bunch of stuff that's specific for just us. Let's see. So that's if it's an LCLD staff and it's an add suggestion. We don't have it on the edit suggestion, just on the add. So this sets the option value to nothing and selects it and makes it select an item type from this list and then disables it. So it forces that to be, basically forces there to not be something and that you can't select that one just at the start of the drop down. And then for item type, we made the class required. And for note, we made the class required.
I think you mentioned the other day when you showed me this, you said you hadn't figured out yet how, or you hadn't worked on making the little label at the end say required to. I think instead of making the class required, if you were to do attribute required, instead of where you say add class, if you say attribute, I think it's just ATTR, and then required, parenthesis required.
Parentheses or comma?
Or comma, yeah. I think if you do those, it might add it automatically.
Let's find out.
Or maybe not.
I also might have refreshed before this finished saving.
Oh, okay.
So I refreshed again. And it's taking a while.
It is taking a while.
Okay.
And it didn't do it anyway, so.
Yeah. So.
Because it seems to me I've done that on the on some other forms in Koha, where adding the class required doesn't do something, but adding the required attribute does do something. It does something different. And I don't know why that's the case, but
Yeah, it looks like this just has a span class that's required at the end for the title.
Right.
So probably we just have to insert
Append that to the
after.
input. Yeah.
Yeah, I just haven't bothered. But also it'll still tell you
Right.
if it's required and you haven't done it. So I'm not too worried about it for now. So that's really the only like web dev type thing I've been working on. We launched our new website last week, I think. And then we're moving it to a new host because our website is slow on our new host, our soon to be old new host.
Yeah, I went to show it to Persephone, and it was really slow at home when I tried to show her your new website. It just took forever to load.
Yeah, if you go to put a dev in front of it, dev dot, it'll load the dev site, which is much faster.
Oh. Yeah, that's always what you want, is your development site to load faster than the production site.
Well, it's because the dev site is the one that's on the new
Yeah.
host.
Oh, okay.
So I'm just, some of the stuff doesn't transfer over as well. So
Where are you moving it to?
First step.
Oh, okay.
So it's been so much better with them than Bluehost. And there's still a couple things, like a lot of the pictures are actually still pointing at the old website. So I have to go in and replace all of the pictures with re-upload them onto the new one. And one of the plugins that we use for like the portfolios on like the digital resources page, we've got like pictures for each of our resources and a description, and then they open in a new link, and that plugin doesn't export well, so you can't like just export it over and import it. So I'm having to like recreate all of that. So that's most of what I've been working on lately.
I was going to ask you, Lizette, you had a button on there that said ILL, yes or no.
Oh yeah.
Is that just a flag to staff, or does it
Yeah.
do something more, or how
Oh,
are you
it's just
using
like
that?
a little label to remind. We used to have like a long message here that was like, please ask patron if they are interested in ILL, and don't forget to do your staff initials, and like neither of those things were getting done. And when we were upgrading, or maybe at the conference, Christopher was showing off these like labels that he uses for some stuff.
Mhm.
And I was doing it for like, if we have an item that's in Mendon, it'll have a little label like this that says Mendon, just so it like pops out more. And so I just used the same kind of thing here to make them pop out a little bit more. You probably could turn it into buttons, you know, where you said like ILL yes, click the button and it sticks it into the notes field. Or ILL no, click the button and it sticks that into the notes field. But I haven't tried it.
Yeah, I don't think that'd be that hard.
Yeah. Now I'm like, gotta make a note of that.
You could just add the function to what you've already got there, and you wouldn't even need to make it a button.
Yeah.
Just when somebody clicks on that. I don't know if that's a span or a div or a what that you've got there.
It's a label, which is a span. So
Yeah, if you gave that label an ID, you could just assign that function to the ID.
yeah,
So when you click on the ID, it'll poke it in there.
yeah. Although right now it says yes or no, so I'd probably want to have two different labels for the ILL.
Yeah.
But that wouldn't be that hard to do. So
Those labels are part of the Bootstrap code.
yes.
And I'm not going to be able to think of anything off the top of my head that's in transit now. I don't know, what's a new book or something that's popular right now?
There's a new Lee Child one. I don't remember what it's called though.
Let me see if I can. Oh. So I silenced one phone, now the other one's going off.
Must be an emergency.
No, it never is. It just sounds like that for everything. I don't know why I picked that sound.
Is it like the red alert sound from Star Trek or something?
No, it's the Station 51 alert from Emergency, the television show that I watched when I was a kid. That I have almost all the seasons of on DVD because it was one of my favorite shows. All right, I'm still looking here to find something that's in transit. Yeah, it has a lot of holds on it, but none of them are in transit between one location and another. Here we go. So this is code that Christopher and I did a video about to highlight the boxes. The thing is it highlights the whole box. And so he actually wrote some different code. He modified it. I got to think of something in my test system where I've got that in production, or I've got that in the system. And Lee Child isn't going to cut it probably. Well, that's not good. A catalog search for Lee Child ought to pull up something, right?
Is your test server on Elasticsearch?
Yeah, it is.
Because I feel like we had some trouble with our test server at one point on Elasticsearch where they had to like rerun the cron to get searching to work.
Well, it was working a couple days ago. Now it's not working at all. All
Yeah.
right, well, I've got a different issue going on here, so maybe I won't share anything from, maybe I won't look for those items. That's annoying.
So is it a new item thing or an item in transit thing?
It's an item in transit thing, and I suppose, well, if I can't look up any items, that's going to be a problem. That's kind of frustrating, actually. Yeah, I can't do any searching in my test server, which I could like 2 days ago. I could. So keyword search doesn't work. Title search doesn't seem to work.
What about the like item search and the little search drop down?
Oh, that's true.
Because that's almost more like running.
That's not a, yeah, that doesn't use Elasticsearch. That's something else. So that is doing a search. It's processing right now. Yeah, this isn't something that's in transit, but this is what the labels look like. This is what I've updated that. So instead of filling in the whole status box, it's just putting that. I think in Bootstrap they call that a label.
Yeah, I have kind of a similar thing.
Since it's on the test server, I guess it doesn't matter if I change them all to something weird.
Yeah, so like this one. Oh, can you stop screen sharing?
Yes.
And I'll show you. Using similar code here, yeah, we have like this with librarian here. It's just sitting at my desk right now, so I can change it to like Mendon. And like Menden's orange with the little triangle.
Yep.
And I think I used the same code from Christopher for that. And it's nice because
Yeah.
it also shows up on like the check-in screen now. That's part of we were like making the whole background a different color. And that's
Yeah,
what Christopher talked about, this label thing.
Yeah, this is a cleaner look.
And then we've also done it for like our new items. So I'll look at like the ugly child. So it even shows up like on the
Mm-hmm.
this search. And it's just nice. All the new ones are red. So it's really easy when we're like checking in or looking on the shelf or looking to know that that's where it goes on the shelf to find it. So those have been really nice.
And I like the font awesome icons. I'm glad I learned how to mess with those.
I guess I can talk about my API problem here a little. We talked about the sysadmin group. So I've added in, let's see, sure, no, this one. So I've added in the series information using the API because I don't like how the style sheets do it, create the search link off of it. And I've gone through and I've kind of checked to see if it has a 490 A and V, and then if it has a 440 A and V, which works. But I have this problem where it's putting undefined only if the information is in the 440 and there's no V listed. If the information is in the 490 and there's no V listed, then it doesn't put the undefined there. So I know there's something wrong in my API call thingy, but I don't know how to fix it. So I've just kind of band-aided it with this code here, which may actually be helpful for your Ajax-y thing, George. So since it's an Ajax call, we have to wait till it's done before we hide the undefined.
Right.
So I'm just using an Ajax complete function there.
Oh, Ajax complete. That's a function I don't know about. I'm going to have to look
Yeah.
that up.
So it waits till all the Ajaxes run on the page and then triggers. So that gets rid of the undefined, but I'm still not sure why this is doing it that way, because I kind of built out these sections based on what Barber had, where it should be checking, and then if it doesn't find it, I guess the 440V is the last thing here, but this else statement is saying just put the 440A if there's no 440V. So I don't know. I'm still learning all this junk, and it's not not well versed in it, but I'm happy that it's working, I guess.
Well, you were also saying there was an issue with the, or is this to get around the issue with the 800 fields with the series information?
Right. So this is getting around that. So I've actually got the series information hidden
Okay.
from the style sheet. So in the CSS, I've hidden it here, and then I'm adding it back in with the API in a string that I like. So yeah, I probably just need to ask Lucas what the deal is with the undefined stuff, but since I can hide it with this, not a huge deal. What else? Oh, I've been trying to work on my statistics for the state survey this year. We're doing things different. So I use I've scabbed off my circulation dashboard thing I've got made up here to start working on a yearly statistics one here, which is mostly working so far. I haven't linked up these reports yet. And then I'm planning on going back and linking into their original reports that they usually run via the number. So that's something I've been working on.
I haven't seen it yet, but I'm taking it that means that the state has already released the how to fill out your statistics for.
No.
Oh, you're just guessing based on last year's?
Yeah, this is based on last year's instructions. Hopefully they don't change too much.
Yeah, I hate it when they change because they tell you that they want you to start recording the use of something that you've never planned for.
So I mean, in previous years, we always made them run these reports on their own. So the idea is that we can do the work for them. You guys don't send in information to the state to pre-populate, do you? At NACL?
We don't send any next information into the state to pre-populate. We send in, Dave Fisher sends in the overdrive stuff from the Sunflower e-library, and we send in the Hoopla information and the LinkedIn learning information and the other stuff that Next purchases on behalf of everybody. But we don't send any Next data in. What we do is I come in, I either schedule those reports to run on January 1st, and we've been having problems with the scheduler, or I come in on January 1st and run all those reports myself, and then put all the data in a spreadsheet, and then the spreadsheet gets shared with everybody. So instead of having a sort of live stats tab on the reports page, I just, at the first day of the year, I create all that data and put it in a spreadsheet, and then everybody can just copy their data out of the spreadsheet. For when I was in Idaho doing what Lizette's doing, this is something that I thought was weird about Kansas is in Idaho, they do the exact same data collection, but they do it on a fiscal year basis. And so they collect all that data in October because the Idaho fiscal year runs from October 1st to September 30th, and then they collect all the data. And then they still have the same deadline of February. So instead of rushing to get all through that statistical data in January and have the stuff submitted to the state by like the 10th of February, they got, they collected all in October, and then they've got the same deadline in February. So it's a lot more relaxed. It was a lot more relaxed when I was in Idaho. I would collect that data in October. Well, it was a lot more relaxed for me because I would collect all that data in October and make sure it was good for the Latah County libraries. And then when my boss came to me like on January 30th and said, "Oh my God, we've got to get all this stuff done," I would just say, "Here's the file." And so I don't know if that's still an issue with Lizette, but
yeah, it's due at the end of December now.
Oh, it's due at the end of December.
It's a shorter
turnaround,
turnaround time. But yeah, pretty much just at the beginning of October, I get all that stuff together. And it's just on the end of the use and program statistics now, so it's not like in a different document.
Yeah.
You can just go find it, and then if we, have to change all of our monthly stuff because they want us to track something new, I get to go and change all our monthly tracking, like to track programs in different categories now.
Last year, the big one that they threw at me that I wasn't expecting is they wanted a separate count for DVD circulation. Oh. That was new on last year's. Jason's going, "Oh crap, I think I forgot that," right?
I don't think I did that.
Well, and that was the same thing I said last year is that this is going to be really inaccurate. And I told Alice at the state library, I said, "This is not going to be accurate data because, if I'd known that you wanted this data, I would have started collecting it in January." But instead it was in January the following year when they said, "Oh, and you need to collect this data too." but I've been collecting it all this year in hopes that there's still one it next year. But then they also had a different, their definition of DVD included Blu-ray. Essentially what they wanted, they called it DVD, but what they wanted is they wanted to know how many 3.5 inch or 4.5 inch laser disc type videos circulated from your library.
I'm seeing now that what they've got on the website is the 2019 instruction, so I'm at least a year behind on providing whatever information they want. So that's not good. Great.
If I come across the 2020 instructions, I'll send them to you. How's that?
No one asked me about it last year. I guess they just know how to run the report so well that they didn't need to. They just pulled their DV stats on their own.
We do this, we have like 3 days in January that we have time set aside where people can just come to our office and ask for help for statistics. Or last year we did a couple of them online. And I always sit in that room and nobody asks me any questions because I've already answered them all before they get here.
Yeah, that's kind of how we are too.
Yeah.
We'll have sessions and stuff, but they just get the numbers from me and take them. So.
Yeah, the questions they always have are the weird ones, like, I got this donation from I got this weird donation, one-time donation. I don't know which line it goes on. Those are the kinds of questions that they usually have. But the data questions about the circulation in the catalog, I always have those before they even ask the question. I don't know how it works in Texas, but
yeah, it's fairly similar. We're fiscal year, and it's due sometime in March, I think. And yeah, they seem to add a new category every once in a while. It's kind of like, well, I can't give you that because we didn't break that out. So
yeah. I've had 3 libraries this year that I don't know what it is, but they want to know circulation by zip code, by borrower zip code, which I've been collecting that data for them since September. But and that's what somebody said. I need to know. It was in my presentation at the koha-US conference. That's a question I've gotten from at least 3 libraries this year asked me. One of them said, I want to know circulation at my library based on the borrower's zip code by month back to, I think they wanted to go back to like 2006. And so what I said was, okay, number one, we only keep data like that for the last, I can only get you data for the last 2 years max. And the further we go back, the less accurate that data is going to be. And I said from 2006 to 2008, we weren't using Koha. So I can't get you any numbers for that. And then from 2008 to 2011, you weren't on Koha. You were still independent by yourself. And so I can't get you any of that data. And then from 2011 to 2019, we don't have any data because we only keep that data for the last 2 years. And so I said, now that I know you want that data, I'll just write a report and I'll start keeping it. I'll start running it every month and put it in with the other statistics, and then we'll build a body of data to work from. But I can't. I said this in my presentation too, I think people have this notion, they've watched too many episodes of Criminal Minds and CSI where they think, there's one episode of Criminal Minds where they're in the field and they call back to Penelope at the office in Washington, D.C. and they say, we need to know, why is this number important? And, and it relates to these people. And then she'll type a few keys on the keyboard, only with 2 fingers. And never hitting the return button. So let's go tap, 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 tap. That was their phone number in 1956. And it's always some ridiculous thing like that. Like everything's in the computer, everything's in the cloud somewhere. All knowledge is out there, and it just takes a few clicks of the keyboard to find it.
not true? I thought that was true.
No, it's not true. It only goes back to 1960.
Oh,
Can't get 56.
I don't have anything else, I guess, to share unless there's something I can share.
Well, let me see if I can share my screen. Do you see a patron record?
Yep.
So in Texas, we're required to ask every new library card person if they would like to have a voter registration card or not. And then we give them one. And we're feel like we fail to remember to do that all the time. So staff wanted a way to be notified. So we've got would you like a voter registration card? And all our patrons register through the self-registration form. And then they come over to the desk and present their ID and whatnot. So they're actually responding to this in the self-registration form. And so here I've got a patron who has, and I'm probably gonna have to save this and go back in. So right now I've got a pop-up coming up at the beginning that's telling the staff, remember this patron wants a voter registration card. And then theoretically, they'll come down here, see that, and, do the thing, change it to no, and save it and go on their way. But I know also that, I don't know if this is the best way to do it. Maybe it should be at the end when they hit the save button rather than at the beginning. Because as you save, you don't get it again. It's just at the very beginning. And I've got this is what I've got so far. And it took me a long time to even get that working because I don't necessarily understand what I'm doing. It's just kind of well, that looks like it pertains. And so I fiddle with it until something happens.
Yeah, what I can see there is it says if patron attribute number 12 equals 1, then fire the alert.
And I'm thinking maybe it would be, I don't know, maybe it would be better to be upon saving.
Yeah, and that would be a little trickier though, because then you'd
Yeah.
have to, because you'd want it to fire when they click the save button.
Mhm.
And that's going to be, you'd be able to do that, but it'd be a little trickier to get it to fire when you do that. What I was thinking might be easier for, one of the things that I immediately saw that I thought might be easier is that the only thing that has to happen when they go in and edit somebody? So the patron creates their own account and then they come to the desk.
Yeah.
And then somebody has to click the edit button to open it up.
Right.
And that's when they see that thing.
Yeah. And we've actually got an awful lot of other stuff going on in here. So if I, make this Texas and I forget the zip code, it should alert me to, so we've got a lot of checking here.
Yeah.
Because when we moved to Koha and I was looking at the patron data that we were bringing over, I was just appalled at the typos and the missing data and the, capitalization and lack of capitalization, and it's just kind of like, this is awful data, you know. And so I put all this stuff in there to at least get some consistency. So it'll check on all kinds of things.
Yeah. So there's already something in there that gives you a place to do that.
Yeah. And
You
I
just
got
need to put that new code in the right spot.
Yeah. I got all that code from somewhere else. I can't remember where. And I sort of understand it and sort of don't. And so I wasn't wanting to fiddle too much with, you know, what I already had in place. So, but that's what I've been working on lately. And I'm going to see, you know, probably put it over in the production side and see if they like it or not, you know, if it does what they're looking for.
One of the things that I was going to suggest, do people often forget to change that yes to a no?
That's what I think will happen. And
what I've got, if you stop sharing, I'll show you what I've got on my system. That's similar but different. Oh, and I'm going to have to show that on my production system because it's not on my test system at the moment. So let me think here.
get back to the big screen so I can stop sharing. That one. I don't know. How do I get out of the small view so I can stop sharing?
I can force it here.
Force it.
There you go.
Thank you.
Let me manipulate a patron in my production system right now because I don't have all my jQuery finished on the test server. So let's see, I want borrower. Okay. What I've got that's similar to what you're doing is I put flags on people's account when their account's been expired for more than 2 years to let people know that the account's going to be deleted soon. And when you click on edit, I've got that account expiration flag goes to the top of the page.
Oh, that's nice.
And it's highlighted in yellow so that it's right there and people know that all they got to do to get rid of that is to click clear.
Ah.
And that before they save it. And the reason that you have to, and the way that I force them to do that is if they don't clear that, this patron's already got other issues, but they don't actually see a checkout box on the checkout page until they clear that. Because if they're going to go to clear somebody, if they're going to go to check out to a patron that's been expired for more than 2 years, that's the first thing I want them to do is to clear that flag. So they don't have the ability to do anything really with the account except edit it. And so once that loads and they clear it, then they can save it. And then they've got all the normal controls. This patron is messed up because they've also got a $94 fine for something. But by pushing that to the top of the screen, though, and giving it a yellow background, it makes it stand out more.
Yeah, that's nice.
But I don't know exactly. One of the ways that I'm able to push that to the top of the screen is because that patron attribute type has its own group.
Okay.
So there's an account expiration group where that expired attribute lives. And so that gives me that puts it in a little box with a label on it.
Okay.
And that's the part that I moved to the top of the page. And one of these well, I think this one makes it well, I'm not sure. No, this is on the might be further down. No, it's got to be one of these. Part of this code here, okay, well, I guess this one is what gives it the weird background. This is what makes it yellow. Chat. And this is what moves it to the top of the page on the edit screen.
Cool.
And the other stuff is what makes it so that if the patron's expired, they can't check things out. So,
Yeah, I might.
but having that at the top of the page makes it, you know, hard to, and with a yellow background makes it hard for people to miss.
Yeah.
And yet,
Yes.
our process for dealing with expired patrons is that after they've been expired for 2 years, I put that flag on their account that says they've been expired for 2 years and they're going to be deleted a year later. And then the libraries have the ability to just run a report on that attribute and see who at my library has that on their account. And then after they've been expired for 3 years, I change that attribute to one that says this patron is going to be expired. Right now, we're in December, and we're after the 15th. So right now, if I change anybody to they're going to be expired, the flag will say they're going to be expired on March 15th next year. So they've been expired for 3 years, and in March, unless somebody changes this account, that's one that's going to be expired. And then they have the ability to run reports on those. But then there's another part of this where if a borrower has even a penny worth of fees, or if they have any guarantors, or if they have anything checked out, or if they have any requests, then they can't be deleted through the process I use to batch delete people. And so then I've got a different flag that says this borrower's been expired for more than 3 years, but I can't do anything with their account. And so when since we're after the 15th, probably in the next couple of days, I will run a report that says these are all the people slated to be deleted on the 15th of December, and then I'll just run the process to delete them. So
You're going to delete them yesterday?
Well, that's what the flag says.
Okay.
Yeah. The flag says they'll be deleted on the 15th, but usually it's more like the 20th. But I do that. I try to do it every month, and sometimes I'll even go a couple of months without deleting anybody. But this way, though, they've got reports that they can run because some of the libraries, the reason we started doing it is because the IMLS report that we were talking about earlier, the state data report, it actually has a caveat in there that says we're assuming that you're deleting patrons on a regular basis. And that wasn't true when I took over this job in 2016. The first time that we did a patron batch deletion like this, we deleted 30,000 patrons, that some of them that had cards that had been expired since 2010. And they were just sitting in the system taking up space and inflating everybody's data. And so, libraries like our library in Bern was, Bern has got like, 200 people in it, and they had like, 560 patrons, which there haven't even been 560 people walk through that library since it was built like 75 years ago. Their numbers were just really and in some of the bigger libraries, it was really crazy. And so like, the bigger libraries would go to sign a contract for like tutor.com, and they'd say, well, according to the numbers we can get out of Koha, we've got like, 60,000 patrons. Well, no, you don't. It's just that, nobody's ever deleted the old ones before. And so they were going to tutor.com or some of those other companies and saying, well, according to the data, we've got way more patrons than we could possibly ever have. So it's like 180% of the people that live in our town have library cards.
I found the recording for last year's state survey stuff, which I apparently didn't watch. And I do see that section where they're asking for DVDs to be broken out and also DVD circulation. So I guess
Yeah.
I'll add that to my to-do list, and we'll see.
So I've been keeping that number every month since they started asking for it. So I feel for you, man. And what's confusing about it too is that they say DVD, and so originally I excluded Blu-rays, and then Ella said, no, we mean anything that's on that size disc that's a video. It's like, well, why don't you just say, 4.5-inch videos, 4.5-inch disc-based videos, or say DVD and Blu-ray and I think that's the reason that they're calling them all DVDs, is because nobody cares. They just want, what's your video circulation that's not VHS? That'd be the best way to say it.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
VHS or Super 8.
What are they learning from this information? I wonder.
I don't know. Now that when Highland Community College joined Next, their previous director was so proud of the fact that they had all of these movies on DVD, that they had just tons and tons of DVDs available for their students. But she was also dismayed by the fact that their DVD circulation was like, 4 a month. And it's because they're college students. None of them own DVD players. They watch everything they're going to watch on their phone or their computer or their tablet. None of them have the equipment to play DVDs. And so now that, DVDs started to become widely used in the late 90s is when there was kind of that shift from VHS to DVD. And so now 20 years later, now that DVD usage is dropping, now's when we're going to start measuring it.
Right.
Now that it's declining, let's start keeping track of that stuff.
Great.
Yeah.
I'm sure I can break that out. It's fine.
Yeah, it wasn't hard for me to break it out because they've all got the same item types.
Mine don't, but they have the same collection codes and
Yeah, I guess with mine,
locations.
we still have like 2 libraries that have VHS. And
We
as a
have
matter of
some,
fact, we had one library last week that added some VHS to their collection. It's like,
Cool.
yeah,
I hope
it's like
that
Sleeping
increases their
Beauty. And
circulation.
it was a couple of Disney movies. Yeah, it's really going to
Oh,
enhance
They
their
got into the
circulation.
vault. The
Yeah.
VHS vault.
It's one of the really small libraries, so it might enhance their circulation by 1 or 2 circs a year, but it does enhance the number of items they've added to their collection. Because in Kansas, the accreditation standard is in order to be accredited, they need to add their collection needs to grow by 4% every year and shrink by at least 4%, and it needs to shrink by at least 3%. So you do 4% addition and 3% weeding at a minimum. And so this will get them like, 5 extra things in their collection. And it's a pretty small library with a pretty small collection. So
That
So
makes
that
more
will-
sense now.
yeah. And then they'll sit on the shelf and take up space. And I think we've almost gotten rid of all the audio cassette audiobooks. Yeah, it's the same libraries that have VHS that have audio cassette audiobooks. Do I have, I don't think I have that book here. I don't have it here. I have a children's nonfiction picture book from the 50s about Native Americans that's really racist that was on the shelf at one of our libraries in 2019, right before the pandemic. We went up there and helped weed their library, and I kept that one because it's just so, it's like everything you don't want in the library.
Yeah, it happens. Especially with those little ones that don't have time to actually weed or the
Yeah.
know-how, that sort of thing.
It's a linking library, so they're only open like 14 hours a week. They've got a part-time director who is older than my mother-in-law. I think she's 84, and she doesn't know what she's doing most of the time. She struggles so hard with email and the computer, and she has trouble weeding because she just doesn't know what's of value and what's not. It's always a struggle for her, and she wants to retire so badly, but they can't find anybody to replace her. And this is a town of like 125 people. And she's afraid that if she retires and there's no replacement, that they'll just close the library. So she keeps sticking at it. And she thinks she may have found a replacement that can start like in February. So she's just holding on till February, hoping that, you know, this will be that she can see the light at the end of the tunnel.
This sounds extremely familiar.
Yeah.
We have identical situations around here. So
Yeah.
all right, well, I think we've exhausted web dev. So I gotta go.
Now that we're 10 minutes past time, yeah.